Have you ever wondered why you spent years studying a foreign language in school, but still can't hold a basic conversation? Or why a child who's never had a single grammar lesson can become fluent in a new language within months, while you struggle despite countless flashcards and vocabulary lists? The answer lies not in how much you study, but in how your brain processes what you're learning. What if I told you that one of history's greatest scientific minds, Richard Feynman, discovered a method that could make language learning up to 9 times faster? A method so powerful, yet so overlooked, that it transforms the entire learning process from frustration to fluidity. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You're trying to learn a new language, and you meticulously memorize lists of vocabulary, only to freeze when it comes time to actually speak. Your mind frantically searches for the right word, but the process feels like navigating through a clunky mental dictionary. That's because you've been learning in exactly the wrong way. The secret lies in how children acquire language. When a child hears perro in Spanish, they don't think, oh, that means dog in English. Instead, they see the actual animal in their mind, wagging its tail, barking, running through grass. They connect the word directly to the reality it represents, bypassing translation entirely. This direct neural pathway is what makes children's language acquisition so astonishingly efficient. Think about it. Every time you translate in your head, you're adding an unnecessary step, a mental detour that slows down your learning and prevents true fluency. It's like trying to drive from New York to Boston, but insisting on going through Chicago first. Wouldn't you rather take the direct route? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you approach language learning. Feynman's genius wasn't just in physics. It was in understanding how the human mind creates lasting connections with new information. The second pillar of this revolutionary approach might sound counterintuitive, but it's backed by compelling neuroscience. When you learn something new, don't just review it silently in your head. Explain it out loud as if you're teaching it to someone else. This simple act forces your brain to organize scattered information into coherent structures, revealing gaps in your understanding and cementing neural pathways that might otherwise remain weak. Imagine your brain as a vast network of roads. Each time you explain a concept aloud, you're not just traveling those roads, you're actively paving them, making them wider, more accessible, and easier to navigate in the future. This is why people who teach concepts retain up to 90% of what they've learned, while passive learners often retain less than 10%. But this is just scratching the surface of how Feynman's method can revolutionize your language learning journey. What happens when you combine these techniques with the right timing and mental focus is nothing short of extraordinary. If you're serious about accelerating your language learning journey, hit that subscribe button now. I'm constantly sharing methods like Feynman's that most traditional courses never teach you, and I'd love to have you join our community of language enthusiasts. What many language learners don't realize is that the hidden truth about mastering a new tongue isn't in how many hours you invest, but in the quality of those hours. Your mindset around concentration creates the foundation for everything else. When Feynman approached complex physics problems, he didn't scatter his attention. He cultivated what we might call a state of deliberate immersion. Think about the last time you tried to study a language while notifications pinged, emails arrived, and your mind wandered to tomorrow's dinner plans. That's not just inefficient, it's actively undermining your brain's natural learning mechanisms. The transformation begins when you realize that 30 minutes of absolute focus will outperform 3 hours of distracted effort every single time. Your brain is constantly making decisions about what information deserves permanent storage and what can be discarded. When you jump between conjugating verbs and checking social media, you're essentially telling your neural pathways, "This language information isn't important enough for my full attention," and your brain responds accordingly, creating weak, temporary connections rather than robust, lasting ones. Concentration isn't just a preference, it's a skill that strengthens with practice, much like a muscle. You see, journey begins with small steps. Silence your phone, close unnecessary browser tabs, find a quiet space, and commit fully to even just 15 minutes of undivided attention. You'll be amazed how quickly this capacity expands when treated as a deliberate practice rather than an innate trait. But here's where Feynman's brilliance truly shines. When you combine this laser focus with the power of visualization, you unlock a dimension of learning that feels almost magical in its impact. Traditional language methods treat your brain like a storage warehouse, asking you to memorize words and translations as if filing paperwork. But your mind isn't designed for memorization. It's built for creating meaning through connections. When you encounter the Spanish word coche, don't just think car. Instead, close your eyes for a moment and see a red sports car speeding down a coastal highway. Feel the leather steering wheel under your fingers. Hear the engine purring as you shift gears. Smell the new car interior. This multi-sensory experience creates neural pathways that are vastly more robust than the thin thread connecting coche to car. This revelation fundamentally changes how you approach vocabulary. Instead of flashcards with translations, you might collect images that evoke strong sensory impressions. Instead of reading word lists, you might walk through your home, touching objects and saying their names in your target language while imagining using them. The mind responds to vivid imagery in ways that transform abstract symbols into living language. What's fascinating is how these techniques mirror the way our ancestors learned before formal education systems existed. They learned through direct experience, through stories imbued with emotion, through necessity and practical application. In many ways, Feynman's method isn't new. It's actually returning us to our most natural learning state, before we became conditioned to approach languages through the artificial, constructive translation. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this method restructures not just what you learn, but how your brain organizes this information for instant recall when you need it most. If you've ever experienced that moment when your mind suddenly connects directly to a foreign word without translation, write in the comments, "Direct connection activated." The most profound revelation in Feynman's approach is recognizing how far we've strayed from our natural learning. Your blueprint, think about it. No child learning their first language ever uses flashcards or grammar drills. Their journey unfolds through direct, sensory-rich experiences that forge immediate connections between words and reality. This insight offers us a powerful invitation to transformation, to shed the artificial constraints of adult language learning and reclaim the intuitive wisdom of childhood acquisition. When a child hears casa in Spanish for the first time, they don't mentally translate it to house. Instead, they absorb the full sensory experience, the doorway they walk through, the aroma of dinner cooking inside, the feeling of security and belonging. The word becomes inseparable from the experience it represents. This direct neural pathway is what we've lost in traditional language education, and it's precisely what makes children such effortless language learners. The challenge for adults isn't cognitive capacity, it's breaking the deeply ingrained habit of translation. Every time you hear pain in French and think bread in English before visualizing the actual bread, you're reinforcing a mental detour that slows your progress. The breakthrough moment comes when you bypass this step entirely, creating a direct channel between the foreign word and the sensory reality it represents. This approach doesn't just make learning more efficient, It fundamentally changes your relationship with the language. Words cease being abstract symbols to memorize and become living bridges to experiences, emotions, and sensations. This is how language becomes a natural extension of thought rather than a laborious translation exercise. But implementing this mindset shift requires a practical framework, which brings us to the final piece of Feynman's method, the strategic structuring of your learning journey. Behind the scenes of every apparent language learning genius lies not extraordinary talent, but extraordinary process. The brain operates in natural cycles of focus and recovery, something most educational systems completely ignore. By dividing your study time into 30-minute blocks of complete immersion, followed by 10-minute breaks, you align your learning with your brain's natural rhythms. These aren't arbitrary numbers. They reflect how neural pathways form most effectively. During those focused intervals, you engage in total immersion. No distractions, no native language, just pure engagement with your target language through all available senses. Then, crucially, you allow for integration during those brief recovery periods. This rhythm respects the biological reality that learning doesn't happen linearly, but in pulses of acquisition and consolidation. The final step in each cycle, explaining what you've learned out loud, serves as the catalyst that transforms tentative neural connections into robust pathways. This externalization process forces your mind to organize random bits of information into coherent structures, revealing gaps in understanding that might otherwise remain hidden. The impact of this simple practice is so significant that it can literally double or triple retention rates compared to passive review. What's fascinating about this structured approach is how it mirrors the natural learning processes we see not just in language acquisition, but across all domains of mastery. From athletic performance to artistic creation, this rhythm of focused engagement, recovery, and externalization creates the optimal conditions for accelerated growth. The ultimate revelation comes when you realize that what feels like effortless fluency in others is actually the natural outcome of aligning with these fundamental principles of how the mind learns. If you've started seeing language learning as creating experiences rather than memorizing words, type sensory connection in the comments below. So there you have it. The essence of Feynman's genius applied to language learning. What strikes me about this method isn't just its effectiveness, but how it reconnects us with our natural learning instincts that modern education often suppresses. We've covered a lot of ground together, from visualization techniques to the power of focused intervals, but the journey of language mastery is ongoing. If you found value in these insights today, I'd love to have you join our community of curious minds by clicking that subscribe button below. We're exploring these kinds of powerful learning frameworks every week, and I'd hate for you to miss the next revelation that might transform your approach to languages or any other skill you're developing. This conversation feels incomplete without hearing from you. If something in today's video resonated with your own experience or sparked a new perspective, drop "Mind Unlocked" in the comments. Your thoughts and experiences enrich our collective understanding, and I personally read every comment. That like button does more than you might think. It helps others discover these ideas and signals to me which topics truly connect with you. Consider it a small gesture that helps expand this ripple of knowledge. I've prepared a video right here that explores how to apply these same principles specifically to vocabulary acquisition. It's the perfect next step in your language learning transformation. Click and continue this journey with me there. Until next time, remember that fluency isn't about memorizing words. It's about creating experiences. See you in the next adventure.